This is a speedrun for Fallout 4 Warp Percent. So Warp Percent is a special kind of category for Fallout 4, and it's really a true any percent. But it doesn't abide by the normal rules of any percent, and that means that we can have pre-made saves in order to beat the game faster. And the way that pre-made saves helps is by load warping to them. So load warping is a glitch in Fallout 4 where if you make a quick save and then you load an older save made on the same character and you enter an area as the old character, as you're entering that area and the screen is fading to black, if you quick load the character from later on, you'll load as the character from later on, but in the area of the old save. And normally you can't do that across characters, but if you change the name of the save file, like manually in Windows, then you can load warp to old saves. So right away, as soon as I gain control of my character right here, I load the modified save file of the public works maintenance area. And what I'm going to be doing is load warping right into there as pre-war Nate. I'm still technically going to be Nate, like from before the bombs even drop, and I'll show that after I hit the load warp. So as you can see, the screen starts fading to black, and you'll see the screen kind of like freezes for a second. That's when I pressed quick load. So normally if you did this, it would say no quick save found, because I'm playing on the character from the sewer save. But because I changed around the name of the file, then I'm able to load quick load from any quick save that's made. So the first thing I do as soon as I load in is I quit out of the game and then reload. And the reason for this is because whenever you load I'm loading an auto save from the main menu. But whenever you load a save from the main menu, you load in at the top of the water, and right there you can see I was pre-war Nate. But you load in at the top of the water when you load a save from the main menu. And we need to get out of bounds here, and the top of the water is actually out of bounds. So we just quit out and then reload the save from the main menu. And I swim up along this pipe, and I made a quick save. The reason why I made a quick save right there is because I had just hit the trigger for the last quest in the game called the nuclear option. And so now I'm pretty much playing as pre-war Nate, and I have the last quest in the game. So then after I made my quick save, I loaded an old save, another modified save, and this is on the balcony of the Museum of Freedom, and I'm load warping on the door, which is very difficult to do, and I can talk a bit more about my method to do it while I kill the raiders. I load warp into this balcony, and now I'm playing as pre-war Nate inside the Museum of Freedom. So if I don't have my fists out, I actually walk at the same speed that I'm inside, that I walk at as inside of the sanctuary home. But whenever you load warp, even if you're a sanctuary character, you gain complete control of your character, but your Pip-Boy is invisible, and walking without any weapons out, you walk pretty much at the speed that you walk at inside the sanctuary home. So right now I'm just killing all the raiders because I need to advance the quest stage with the Minutemen in order to pickpocket a relay device, a relay holotape off the Sturges. And this holotape only spawns after you get the nuclear option. I actually got caught once while I was doing this, but it's not that big of a deal. This holotape right here, the Institute Relay targeting sequence, it only spawns after you have the nuclear option quest line started. So pretty much we have to get that in order to beat the game. So now what we do is we load warp back to the Institute. Or we load warp to the Institute. And I'm setting up a punch warp here. A punch warp is a glitch I'll explain really briefly in a second, but note that I tried to melee attack a mine. That's what's important. Anyways, the reason why we can't just load warp straight to the Institute is that we need, if we load warp straight to the Institute, we would just be our character from Sanctuary stuck in the Institute not doing anything. All it does is it puts us in a new location. The load warp puts us in a new location. It doesn't give us the location in the state of the old save. We would still be pre-war Nate in the Institute, but because we haven't actually done anything, the Institute will just be empty. So we actually need to pretty much get it ready so that we can do stuff in the Institute by getting this sequence so that the Minutemen can teleport in. So I load warp to the Institute, obviously. I'm going to load warp again to a different level after I get the bomb from Preston. And I'm going to trigger a punch warp. So a punch warp, you saw me try to melee attack a frag mine while I was in the air in a corner. A punch warp is when you attempt to melee something in VATS, but going through with the attack would either put you inside of an object or out of bounds. And the game doesn't want you to be in either of those states. So the game has you stand there idle for a second, waiting for the object to be in a position where you can actually melee attack it. If you cancel your attack, your VATS attack, while you're standing there idle, then what will happen is the game will store the coordinates of where you're standing. So now I melee attack this frag grenade, and I warp to the coordinates, and I drop down next to the reactor. And pretty much to trigger it, all you need to do is try to melee attack something in VATS again. So I triggered it on a frag grenade. So now, again, I'm load warping back. I planted the bomb, and I'm pretty much doing the last quest in the game right now in a very broken manner. So right now I'm load warping back to the upper level of the Institute, so I don't have to run all the way around. And I'm going to run into the teleporter room, and Desdemona is going to teleport in. Because the bomb that Preston hands you is like tied to the railroad, even though he hands it. The game gets really confused here, and you're kind of finishing the game with both the railroad and the Minutemen at the same time, but mostly the railroad. So Des is going to TP in, we're going to talk to her to skip some of her dialogue, and then we're going to immediately load warp. As soon as we gain control of our character again, we're going to load warp to the railroad HQ, because we need to talk to Tinker Tom there in order to keep further advance the quest line. And normally, this is like the final split. All this stuff I'm doing in the Institute is normally the very end of a regular any percent run. But yeah, we load warp into the railroad HQ, and we need to talk to Tinker Tom and tell him, like, hey, we're going to blow up the Institute now. Get it ready. And again, this category is like really how fast you can actually beat the game. No restrictions at all. Like, you can pretty much do what's considered cheating in terms of most speedruns by using pre-made saves. Like pre-made saves and like using those saves to actually progress through the game. Because typically a speedrun, an any percent speedrun, you can only load saves that were made from when you press a new game on. But this is a special kind of category. This is kind of like an experimental type of category to see really how fast you can beat the game. No restrictions at all. So I talked to Tom, and I load warp back to the Institute. And now I'm going to go pretty much teleport to the Mass Fusion Executive Suite. And from there, I get to just blow up the Institute, and the game ends. And I'll display that I am still pre-war Nate. But yeah, this is truly how fast you can beat Fallout 4, like in terms of how we know. There might be a faster way to do it involving a similar method, but this is the fastest way we know how to do it at the moment. And you may ask, why don't you just load warp to the Executive Suite right at the start? And there's two reasons for that. One, it would be a very difficult load warp, and I'm not sure if it's even possible. And two, because we hadn't done any of the quest line, when we would be here, everything would be empty. The bomb wouldn't be there because we hadn't progressed the quest at all. Like, we have to actually do everything we did in order to make our pre-war Nate have the quest stages all triggered and whatnot for the bomb to be there. But yeah, this was Fallout 4 in 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
I can feel it wash over me. The heat, the force, the radiation, the fear. It's the end of the world all over again. I close my eyes. I see my life before all of this. Before the bombs. Everything can change in an instant, and the future you plan for yourself shifts, whether or not you're ready. At some point, it happens to all of us. This wasn't the world I wanted, but it was the one I found myself in. The Commonwealth. my home, ripped apart and put back together. I hoped I could find my family, cheat time, make us whole again, the way we were. But now I know. I know I can't go back. I know the world has changed, that the road ahead will be hard. This time, I'm ready. Because I know war. War never changes.